Welcome to the Athletes Portal, a show about what it takes for student athletes to succeed in the classroom, on the field, and life after. We bring you the community that supports these athletes' success. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Thank you, folks, for tuning in to the Athletes Portal. I am your host, Keith Williams. I am a husband, father, proud father of 2 student athletes. The Athletes Portal is a weekly show about youth sports. We interview the community that helps student athletes succeed in the classroom, on the field, and life after. No theory here, just reality. So let's get started. Today's guest grew up in Brooklyn, New York, has worked in youth sports for 23 years, coaching, mentoring, and leading young men. His mission is to change lives. And when he is not coaching football, he enjoys making music. Please welcome the head coach of Pace Academy football team, Coach Kevin Johnson.
Thank you.
Coach Johnson, how are you this morning?
Doing well. And yourself?
Excellent, excellent. First of all, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a guest here. I really have to ask you one question. The making music, how do you do that?
You know what? I just enjoy different tunes, different beats. You know, I'm not a singer. I'm not an instrument player. I'm just a person that knows how to put different pieces together. And so I'll bring some of my former students in, or I'll bring some kids I know that, you know, that knows how to put it together. And I sit in the studio with them and we just have a good time, you know.
Excellent.
We've done some good stuff together.
Excellent. Well, folks, let's get to know Coach Johnson a little better. I've prepared some quick fire questions for him. Are you game for that this morning?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So let's start off with favorite food.
My wife, wings. She
Excellent.
This special sauce that she makes, and love them.
Excellent. First 3 things you do in the morning.
Take the dogs out, you know, work out, pray, then work out.
Excellent. What is your theme song, that song that gets you going?
I have a couple, but I love, like God Did, DJ Khaled, you know, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Rick Ross. You know, that's one of my theme songs that I love to listen to when I'm working out.
Can't go wrong with those. I have 3 favorite music artists.
Jay-Z, Nas, 50 Cent. Love Biggie, though, too. I got Biggie on there, but, like,
gotta have Biggie.
Guys, yeah.
Gotta have Biggie, especially if you're from Brooklyn.
Yeah. God, yeah, man.
Yeah. 3 favorite movies.
Remember the Titans, Coach Carter, Friday Night Lights.
Nice. Good call. I love Remember the Titans. Great choice. We're making a movie about you. What actor is going to play you?
Man, 50 Cent.
Ooh, all right. I like that. 3 books you've read that have impacted your life.
I'll just say one of the ones I really like, Chop Wood, Carry Water. You know, I think that's a book that I started reading it, actually. I got it from one of my mentors and started reading it, and it helps you, sports, life, mental health. It's one of those things that I really enjoy. So I highlight it and keep going back and forth and reading certain things when I'm meeting with certain kids.
Excellent. If you could have dinner with any 3 people, living or dead, who's at your table?
Jay-Z, Reggie White, and Denzel Washington.
Good choices. Definitely Denzel. And what's something sports has taught you that you use off the field?
I'm going to say togetherness. Sports actually help different genres come together. And I think that's one of the things that in this world that we have a lot of people that's separated by race, creed, religion, whatever the case may be. I think sports is one of the things that bring us together. So, I think the togetherness, that's one thing that's taught me.
Okay, final question. I agree with you on that, definitely, with sports. Final question, what's a skill you've always wanted to learn but haven't learned yet?
I always want to learn how to cook.
All right, that's good.
Not that I'm not a bad, cook, just, I see a lot of guys, dabbing in the kitchen, stuff like that. That's one of the things I wish, it's not that I don't have it. I don't have the patience to do it. I have patience to create a player. I don't have patience to cook the meal.
All right. Not a bad thing. And that's always something you can pick up at any time.
Absolutely.
Put it on your bucket list. Let's get in. It's great getting to know you a little better. I want to get into, I have what I call a hot topic. And one of the things that I'm constantly hearing parents talk about and debate all over social media, and just as I've been through sports, is the whole reclassing thing. It's, and I'm sure you've encountered this or you've seen this. And I'm curious what your take is on it. Because, like I said, I've seen people say, I see people who say it's a good thing. I've seen people who hate it. And I'm kind of curious because you're a coach, so you definitely have a perspective on that.
I love the reclass actually for young men that needs that extra year to mature, right?
Okay.
So I think a lot of people look at it from a sports perspective. I look at it from a maturity perspective, right? I think most young men mature later than females. And
Yes.
so I think from that standpoint, they need to do it. I did it for my own son. He needed another year to really mature and become the person who he is today. And so I think if you take the sports out of it and use it for like a social type of deal, then I think that helps out, young
Okay.
and longevity wise.
Yeah. I also think in some sports like football, because it's a physical sport, that especially at that age, I guess middle school is when people tend to reclass eighth grade. I do see how that could help a football player who's coming up, just for the physical development.
Correct.
Have you seen, like, in terms of when you look at your players that have come through, have you seen a benefit overall for the kids that have reclassed versus the kids who haven't? Is there any, like, have you seen a tangible difference overall, or is it just more like case to case?
I seen a big difference. I believe, when you reclass is helping a young man out or young lady out academically, right? So some kids are not developed as fast in the classroom. Again, I'm looking at it from that standpoint. I put the sports to the side. Development standpoint, I think that helps out tremendously.
Okay, definitely. Also, as we're looking at sports now, there's a rising cost of sports. One of the things I fear is that sports is the lack of access for people who don't have resources. Football might be different, but I can tell you basketball, you're traveling, you're on the road. It's not cheap, and so there's a concern about the middle class and the lower classes getting pushed out of sports. And I'm wondering if you've seen this and how do we fix this?
I do see it, and it's actually heartbreaking because, when I started my youth program in New York City in 2005, my partner and I, Raheem Salahuddin, we made sure that the parents are only paying $125. So here was the catch to this. They paid $125, they got $100 back at the end of the season once they turned the equipment in, right? Just because we knew that a lot of these families couldn't afford it. So, we did the groundwork, right? We went to the councilman, we went to every politician we can go to try to solicit funds from those people. And so, and it worked out well, right? Because again, we were in a place, Brooklyn, New York. If you know anything about Brooklyn, New York, Brownsville, Eastern New York, Riverside area, there's not a lot of funds there.
Yes.
Right? Not a lot of people there that does well for themselves. So, so we made it a mission to, hey man, listen, we're gonna strap our boots up and we're gonna go get after it and help these families out. And so, and we made it, we made it work. We made it work, and every year, if you know anything about 501Cs, we zeroed out every year. And so, and like I said, I just feel like now it's getting worse, more money, $600 to play football, $700 to play football. Like, are you kidding me? Right? Some of these programs, I'm not gonna name no names. Part of one of the foundations I help out. We had to like cut a check for $5,000 for a football program. For 6 kids. And I'm kind of like, for 6 kids. So these are some of the things that kind of like is getting way out of hand with youth sports, because I think behind the scenes people doing whatever they're doing with the money. I ain't getting into all that, but I just think it's way out of hand that we robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we robbing the poor actually to benefit themselves.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, football. You don't travel in football, and you correct me if I'm wrong, right? As far as I know, there's no AAU in football. You guys are not.
No, it is.
Okay, yeah.
No, it is. It's
Talk to me.
a whole lot of traveling football. I mean, especially when I moved
outside of the season. Sorry, outside of the season, or
outside. So I'm talking about youth football.
youth?
Right?
Oh, youth football.
I'll
Okay.
go from youth football way to high school. So there is traveling for youth football, and now some of these guys have national schedules. National schedules for 7-on-7. 7-on-7 is just like AAU, and they travel a all over the place, right? Youth football from 7 years old, I believe, all the way up to seventh grade or eighth grade, these guys do travel. They play a national schedule. They travel over. They'll do a big jamboree here in Georgia. They'll do a jamboree in Florida. They'll do in Texas. Like it's all over the place. And as far as high school, for us, and what we're doing, we're going to do in a couple of years from now, we'll have a team travel to us, and we'll travel to a team, right? Just to cut the costs on both ends. And so I just believe, one, yes, I want my kids to have national exposure, but at the same time, I got to make sure that it's not breaking the parents' pockets to make this happen.
Yeah. So do you think now for your high school kids, is it essential that they have to go travel national, like out of state, in order to get that exposure? Because Georgia has great football here.
It does have great.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, I mean, one, yes, I do. I like it because you get to play against different players from different regions. So yes, I do like it in the sense of, we want to put out a schedule like, hey, we are playing a national schedule, or we're playing these good players to help our players get recruited.
Yes, that makes sense. It's true, because I do know that, I've gone through the recruiting process with my son, and this was basketball, but I'm sure there's similarities in football. They look at who you're playing against.
Absolutely.
So I do understand that. They're looking at, oh, you played this guy, he's highly ranked. Okay. They might not necessarily recognize my son, but they recognize the guy who is highly ranked. So they will recognize players. So I guess it's the same thing in football. Like I said, I just know Georgia has really good football teams, so. Now, how do you think NIL is impacting football, at least at the high school level? Or do you think kids are going after the bag, or do you think they're still focused on the game? Because the money, I think, is an amplifier. It shows who people really are. And so I'm concerned. I'm just curious how you see it now that NIL is coming in. And I don't know if it's hit high school as much. I know it's hit college, but it's going to trickle down to high school. It has a little bit, but what's your take on that?
It's trickled down to high school. I'll say this. A lot of people might get mad when I'm about to say. I'll say this. It's not about the love of the game no more. The love of the game has been gone. It's about them getting the NIL, some NIL money. But I'm going to say them, what I mean by the parents. Most parents are pushing this NIL situation. And, most parents think that they are the coach, they are agent, they are the lawyers, right? Financial advisors. And they're putting these kids in these bad situations. And I wish I can share documents with you so you can actually see it. But they're putting these kids in bad situations because they don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
And I feel bad for the kids when the kid called and said, hey, coach, I got a tax bill for $100,000, right? Because they don't put the people in place in order to make this young man successful, right? Here's what I told a gentleman the other day. He said, I'm about getting the kid the most money, right? I said, cool. I said, do the kid love the school, or he just love the money that he's going to receive from the school? Because in a year from now, he's probably going to leave that school because he don't really like it, right? And so he was trying to convince me to send one of my kids to a school because they gave the most money. And I said, absolutely not. I said, we're not chasing money. I said, what we're trying to do is chase development.
Yes.
Right? If they're going to give money to the young man, cool, no problem. I'm going to make sure he's protected, got the right people around him, and we go from there. But I'm not going to send a kid to a school based upon financial gains. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you see it, these kids are in four schools, 5 schools.
Yeah, I see.
Right? Doesn't make any sense. They're not building any character. They're not learning any leadership, right? They're not doing anything. All they're doing is, and it's become about them being selfish, right? So, like I said, it is what it is now. We have to accept it, and I'm all for it. But there are lessons that need to be learned from, for parents, for kids, to help these guys, move in the right direction.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, and I can speak from personal experience. When my son was going through the recruiting, we made the decision based on the coaches. And I said, I got to ask some of the tough questions, which is if the coach was really successful, I didn't think they were going to be there next year. So I tell my son, we got to be wary of this. Or if the coach was struggling, because most of our decisions was based on the coach. Because we know this coach, if the coach understood my son's talent, they got along, that was the only separator because he had 22 offers. So we had to start narrowing this thing down. And that's kind of how we did it. We didn't really even look at the money because if you have a good coach, you're going to perform well, you're going to be happy, and the money will figure, I always say the money will figure itself out. Performance will solve money problems, will solve the money. And so that's kind of how we did it. But everybody doesn't have like we weren't, every parent, I guess, is not like that.
No,
so
no.
That's unfortunate, because the kid's got to go, that's the kid's life. They're going to be there.
And I think people are forgetting the end result of going to college, the end result of going to college.
Get a degree. Yeah.
Graduating. I got a young man right now who had to leave his situation. And he was a all SEC player, freshman All-American. The school he was attending treated him like, dirt. Started for 3 years and moved on. Didn't take anything personal, moved on. And this young man is actually, he's dual enrollment. He's taking 5 classes at this university and taking the minimum at this university, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he understood what the main goal was, right? And, like I said, he's one of my kids who's dear to my heart. So we created this blueprint, when he first got to me, and he's sticking to the plan. And so he's not, trying to deviate and trying to get out of it. He's sticking to the plan. If you have a plan for these kids, it can help. If the parents kind of let the coaches or let the advisors, whomever, do their job, I think it'll all work out for these young men.
Yeah. The other thing, too, that's a problem with them transferring is your credits you're not going to get a degree. And then if you don't go pro, you've spent 4 years playing sports in college and you have no degree, you've set yourself up for failure. Exactly. So you spent all that time and didn't get your degree, but you made money. And the money's great, but the money's going to go, especially if you don't manage it properly.
Exactly. The money is great, but if you don't know what to do with the money, if you don't have a team around you, then it's like the money is just temporary, to be honest with you, right?
Exactly.
There's money to last you of a lifetime, not just, 5 years, 10 years, and these guys are going broke after that. So,
it's crazy. But, how do schools, you guys are a private school, but, you're seeing prep and powerhouse programs. How do you compete against those programs? Like, what do you have to do differently in order to bring people to PACE?
So PACE is, has been rated this year to like number 1, private school in Georgia from an academic standpoint, and so I think when families come introduce themselves to you, one of the things I tell them, like, listen, don't come here for football. Come here because you want to be a well-rounded student, right? If you just happen to play football, happen to play basketball, track, whatever the case may be, great. But don't come here looking just to play one sport or just looking to play the sport, because I want you involved with everything. I want you involved with the band, the acting class, a little bit of everything. I want you to be really involved because here's a different culture, right? And I would rather bring in kids who are not that good and develop them, opposed to bringing in this high-profile guys and it don't work out, right? And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work out when you bring those high-profile guys in. I'd rather bring some kids in, and all the kids I've had in the past, all the kids that really no one knew, they were developed. And of course, when they got to high school, their junior years and senior years, people started to see them. Everybody wanted, put their paws on them, like, oh yeah, I coached him here, oh, I did this, and so I never cared about that. I'm more about development, and if we happen to develop a couple of kids who are really, really good, then cool. If not, they just average, that's fine as well, because the ultimate goal again is for kids to graduate from PACE, go to college, get a degree, and move on, right? And so a coaching staff or a mission staff will come to PACE first before you go to other schools. Right? So that's how we compete. And that's how we bring them in. To be honest with you, we're looking for overall student athletes, not just for football.
I love that because I'll tell you, I've seen so many people who do the exact opposite. They want the finished product and they miss out on some players because we've all seen this. I know you've seen this. I remember when my son was playing basketball in middle school, there were kids who were better than him. And then, if you just looked at it on the surface at middle school, you might say, well, we're going to go with this kid because he's really good. That kid was not a star in high school, the kids who are regulars surpass him. You've seen it. I know you've seen this.
I've seen it with, and I'll say his name, Andrew Thomas, who played for me. He had Pace Academy with the University of Georgia, left tackle, drafted 4th pick overall. Him coming from out of Lithonia, there was a kid actually who was highly ranked. Everybody loved him. You know, I didn't see it, right? So I didn't even have a conversation with mom and dad about the kid, to be honest with you. I didn't do it. Time the kid got to his sophomore year, the junior year, that kid fizzled out. Now he went to college for free, right? He went to Division I AA school, 6'5", 300 pound, tackle or guard, whatever he played, but he fizzled out. And because people thought he was a finished product, but you always got to think about this, right? When you're coaching and when you're looking at kids, most kids going to look like a finished product when they're bigger than everyone in the 7th, 8th grade, right? Give me a kid who was first in sprints, but not really good technical wise, right? And I'm speaking of offensive lineman because that's my baby. That's what I do, right? I create offensive linemen. Give me that kid, right? I don't want the kid who is dominant, I don't want that kid because it's going to be so hard to get that kid to learn what you want him to learn because everyone has powdered his tail.
Yes.
How great you are, right?
Yeah.
I don't want those guys. Give me the guys that finish sprints first. Yes, sir, no, sir. Who works hard in the classroom. I'll take those guys all day, right? And I'm patient. Like what I was saying about patience with cooking, I'm patient about developing, right? Because it takes time. And development and training is two different things, just so we know. So I don't like to train. I like to develop. When people say, oh, I want to come train with you. Nah, I don't do no training. Go pay somebody to train.
Yeah.
I want to develop, right? And so that's just one example I have of a young man who was highly ranked guy and a person who wasn't ranked. And this young man wound up being 4th pick overall, for the Giants and, just signed a big contract two years ago or whatever.
Oh, that's amazing. I'll tell you, it takes special coaches to take the approach that you're taking of development because everybody wants to win right now. I know college, it's a different animal because they are under the gun. And I'm sure in high school, you guys have pressure. If you guys lose a bunch of games, somebody's going to be talking to you. You're held accountable. So I know it's not easy for you in high school either, but I think you get the long-term play. And I want to share something with the guests because you and I spoke. Coach Johnson goes into the classroom and watches how students learn in order to teach them. So I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, I just think that's something that I started doing in 2012. And I want to get to know the players, right? I really want to get to know them. I want to see how they think, how they process, right? And sometimes some coaches don't have time for it, right? I have time for it.
Yeah.
I always made time for it because I just think it was very important that I showed them that, hey, listen, I want to sit in here with you and understand you. So now that me becoming the new head coach here at Pace, and I'll sit down with my staff and I'll go through each kid on how they learn, what their process are. So now the coaches, when they're teaching the individual drills and doing certain things, they know how to do it. Because one thing I don't want to happen is a coach yelling, screaming at a kid, and the kid is not processing why he's doing that.
That's true.
So I'm gonna nip that in the bud right now and explain to each one. And I have a whole sheet about all our guys that's here on how they process, how we need to do it, how we need to teach them. Right? So, and we just kind of go from there. I just think it's just a cheat sheet. To be honest with you, just give kids extra ammunition to become a better player, right, and become a better person. And then for the coaches get to know who the player is. Right? Yeah. I just don't want to know the players. Right? I want the other coaches to get to know the players on a personal level. Because I don't want this to be a fly-by-night type of deal. I want them really engage into what their everyday activities and everyday life is.
Yeah, I like that because I also think that players, when they see that you care that much, they'll run through a wall for someone like, someone who does that. There's a player out there, I'm sure, who may not be as talented as some of the other high-profile players, but you put a group of guys who you focus on development, who know that you've poured into them, and you've gone to the classroom with them, those guys, I'm sure, will run through a wall for you. Like those guys, I think they'll perform above what people would expect just because of what you've done. That's my take.
Yeah, it's all about ingredients, right? It's all about the ingredients and like cooking, right? It's all about the ingredients and the ingredients you put into your meal. The taste's going to come out just as good, right?
That's true.
Put that time and ingredients into those kids, right? It ain't no such thing of a kid not being good, right? So the kid got to bring his 50%, and of course, I got to bring my 50%, right? We got to make 100% out of this thing. But if the kid bring his 50 and I bring my 50, I can guarantee you, right? I can guarantee you that kid is going to become a really good ball player. He's
Yeah.
going to be a really good person. He's going to be a really
Yes.
good father, right? A really good husband. And I think that's the part that people are missing from an overall player, right? Because, when it's all said and done, at 21, I was done. 22, I was done. I didn't play anymore. What do we do? What's next for you, right?
That's true.
And that's the plan that people don't get, and that's the plan that people don't talk about.
Yeah. I got to say, I got to ask you, imagine, like, I think athletes, there's an advantage in being an athlete. So imagine I'm an employer. What would you tell me about your athletes that would make them great employees?
Well, one of the things I'll tell you is this young man is on time. He knows how to work in a team environment. He works extremely hard when given a task. And he's one of those kids that can learn on the fly, right? So those are the things that I know employees look for, right?
You're
And
correct.
guys who's gone through different processes. And I've had plenty of employees call me, right? And those are the things that I always tell employees. If you're looking for someone that works hard, but don't really know the job, but is willing to learn the job and was a team player, you want to take him, right? And I tell people all the time, my name, when I vouch for you, means everything to me,
That's
right?
true.
And and where I'm from, we are big on that,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So when I vouch for you, that means a whole lot. And I swear up and down to every employee I've spoken to about different guys in the past, they're all doing well. They're all doing well, and I'll get an email back every now and then, like, man, you hit it on the head with this guy. He does X, Y, Z, and because they're on time, right? And this is what I tell my guys all the time: being on time means you respecting someone else's time. Being late is mean you being real disrespectful.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Disrespect is just not my forte, right? So you have to be on time, and guys, Coach, man, you get here an hour early. You're right. Because we don't know
Yep.
what's going to happen on the highway.
Well, yeah, you live in Atlanta. We live in Atlanta. We know that.
Right? No matter where you are, right? Orlando traffic is worse than Atlanta.
Yeah, I know. You know that.
So no matter where you are, you always got to be an hour ahead of time. And just so anything can happen, you can drink your coffee, spill something on your shirt. I mean, whatever, right? You have time to be ready to go. And then, like for me, if I'm going in a situation, this is what I share with my guys. If I'm going into a job interview, I like to get somewhere, learn the room, learn the atmosphere,
Yes.
get in my thoughts, and how I'm going to explain what I need to explain about who I am. So, so what we do actually, and we'll be doing this summer, is going through mock interviews, going through like interviews that we're meeting with someone on a podcast, or, because one of the things I want to make sure these guys understand is how you speak, right? The tone you use, the language that you use when you're talking on a podcast, when you're interviewing, like, or ESPN or something like that, right? So I'm bringing people in to teach these kids
That's
these
smart.
next steps.
That's smart. Smart. Final question.
Mhm.
What's next for you and Pace Football?
Man, great question. Building the brand back, man. Building it back. Again, I got here in 2010. We took off like a rocket, right? Took off like a rocket. And by 2015, we was winning the state championship. Had a lot of kids, went on to college and had some success, and kids went pro, right? Got to get back to the main thing. The main thing is the development part that I spoke about earlier, right? I think we got into the habit of trying to find the best players, right? I'm trying to find the best people. I'm trying to find the best families that fit this culture, that understands my process and how I do things. If you can't find that, and I don't care how good a kid is, I don't want the kid, right? And there's nothing to do with the kid, right? Because I'm all about developing young men, to be husbands one day, right? And that process is hard. And I explained to my kids, I was a young father, right? And so when you become a young father, there's a lot of temptation. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of pressure out there that I had on my shoulders. And as I'm going through this process, I'm like, man, how did I get out of this? How did I get myself into this, right? So the lessons that I'm teaching is what I went through. And I tell my own son this. I tell my kids this that play for me. I've been through all the pains and the pressure for you all. God put me in this spot to make sure you guys don't make the mistakes that I've made coming up.
Amen.
Right? And so, so that's like, for me, I just want to build this brand back up, get us back in a situation where we having success on the field, having success off the field, and we can walk around with that pride of wearing that Pace Academy sweatshirt on, or just being out in the community and you know, people asking you questions about PACE. And again, from an academic standpoint, I don't think a lot of schools can't really hang out with us academically.
I know that.
So,
I'm very
you know, we
familiar.
want to be the Duke universities, the Stanford universities of the world from the high school standpoint. And we have the abilities to do those things.
Yeah. Well, Coach Johnson, thank you so much for being on the show. I've truly enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely.
And I wish you guys continued success in building the brand and success on and off the field.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And, you know, and for your listeners, when you're going through this portal, when you're going through this process, this NIL deal, put the right team around you. You know, put the right team around you. I can guarantee you, if you find a real agent, right? If you have a kid that's, you know, that can play like that, if you find a real agent, get yourself a real financial advisor and put your son, your child, your daughter in a situation where they're comfortable and they understand what they need to do. And again, don't chase the bag, chase greatness, right? Don't chase the bag, chase greatness. And whatever that greatness is to you, that's what you want to go get. So I definitely appreciate you giving me the time to, you know, speak on your podcast. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.